I began hurling at a very, very young age. As a matter of fact, as soon as I came to the use of reason, the home I grew up in and the family and the parish lent itself to thinking hurling at that time. If you can visualise it, it was in the early 30s that I began to come to the use of reason, as I say, and you were going through a very depressed time in the country. And there was a family of 10 in our house, and we hadn't any great affluence by any means, but we had the basics, and we had a very, very happy attitude to life. And with that background, like, there was only one place to go to entertain yourself, and that was to the hurling field. And if you came home late, or summer's evening, or any evening for that matter, and if you had to account for yourself, and if you said you were in the hurling field, you were safe enough, you were considered. And even if you had a mark to show it, as long as you bore the mark in the front rather than that you were running away, then you were okay, like, and you were healthy. Really, I can remember well pucking around at home with an old sponge ball and even an old stitch sliotar, but it was a sponge ball early on, and that was moving fairly smart, and you'd want to be fairly quick on the pull. But if you would be watched, of course, by my father, God rest him now, and there'd be a few of the locals watching you play, and you'd think you'd be great hitting a big long puck, and you would be told very bluntly that try it at the other side.
Left-hand side.
Left-hand side. That you'd be shown off by hitting it at the right-hand side, but you were not accepted as being able to hurl until you were able to hit it at both sides. So you were very conscious of that, and you tried to please by showing them that you could do it. And on those little tips, like, early on, and it was very much part of the family, of the parish activities, and your progress was watched and commented upon. But I always think that at that time, when we were growing up very small, like, you looked on the strength of a fella rather than his skill in the parish. Like, if he could knock down the opposition, like, you would admire him at a certain stage. But that was all changed when we came in. I only 4 miles out from Thurles. When I came to the Thurles CBS, then the polish, I would safely say that that's when we began to polish up the game, and to be the brothers had a tremendous influence on us, and there was no use knocking a fella if he scored a goal. You could score the goal or a point or do something skillful on the play and be knocked, and you were the winner. Like, you know, there were fellas in others wrestling and pulling tug of war, and those things were for another type or another attitude. But to get the ball and to do the best thing with it, score it or strike it, you were winning, like. And that was brought home to us in the school and in school competitions, and playing against lads from the town now, Thurles. I'll tell you, they would put you, they'd smarten your step for you at that time, because they were very, very skilled. Oh, it certainly was a way of life. It was most certainly a way of life. All the activities in the parish centred around the hurling club, and no matter what was to be done, if there was a mehel at a thrashing, or someone to help someone in distress, or any crisis, the people to head the crisis were the same people who run the hurling club. They just were accepted as having the responsibility of looking after the affairs of the parish, and the hurling club was very much the top organisation in the parish. Well, my abiding memories of those years, there are many stories about those years of the people going to the games, the in Limerick, waiting for the gates to open there at 10 o'clock, and that would be told right through the winter, like, how they were there at 10 o'clock and how they got in and how they held their spot, and when the teams came out, and they saw more than we did that were playing. But it was, I suppose, something I will never forget the experience, the joy to be part of there was epic tussles, and we were locked very closely together, like there were two even teams. And when we played Cork, and we were winning actually the first day, and Cork came at us, and it was a draw. We were lucky. We were in hard luck the first day. I suppose we should have won it, but the second day we were lucky to draw. It was a goal in the last minute by Jimmy Kennedy that gave us a draw, and then we had to play the extra time. So Cork should have won the second day, but we got the extra time, and we had Houghton on our side, and we pulled it off. But then the following year, we won it again, and the following year we won the 3 in a row. But then we were beaten 3 years, which we could have won, and we mightn't have won any, and we could have won 6. So it was very keen rivalry. Cork were something special, like in the hurling world, like, and until you played against Cork or beat Cork, you hadn't really achieved top status. And against Laois in 49, Kilkenny in 50, and Wexford in 51, there were memorable days. There were climaxes to a great year's hurling. Of course, they were the end result, the thing we were after, and the first one, while it had a great flavour. We beat Laois and beat them well, like, and it was we had reached a real maturity and status and standing. We were All-Ireland champions, and that was a racing surely. The next year against Kilkenny, it was 1-8 to 1-9. It was very tight scoring, and that was like, while we beat Laois, with respect to Laois, like you were saying, Kilkenny was the team to beat, to really put the sauce on an All-Ireland, so we beat them, and that was a great feeling of satisfaction. Then in 51, the great Wexford team had just showed, the Nicky Rackard team had just come on, and they were big, powerful men, great team, great sportsmen, and we beat them rather comfortably after a blitz start they had, like, but they certainly were wonderful years and great finishes to the years, and they put the icing on the cake of the great Munster Championships. It's hard to know. I played against Limerick up here in, I think it was 51, and I had things went very right for me. If I had to think of a perfect game, I suppose that was the nearest thing to it. Just, I probably peaked that day, like, everything seemed to go right for me. It was one of those days, you know.
Once in the other states, man, Bobby, your earliest memories of Uncle Pat growing up, and can you bring them to us tonight?
Well, I hope this is working, because I'm not going to start shouting down at you. I think my earliest memory, and Aidan will probably remember this as well as I do, hugely competitive man. And we learned about his competitiveness playing a game called Tapioca, which probably none of you have ever heard of. It was in our kitchen, and when he came to visit our house every maybe twice a week, we loved to see him coming, because he used to bring the ones, I was going to say that, he used to bring the ones lemonade. No, the great came at Christmas. It was a hero. But this game was very simple. It's a small ball, and as kids, the table was shoved back, and the skirt board was the goals. And my brother Tim used to play in goals. There was war in the house, but Mammy loved it for a while until you see all the pot marks on the floor. So then we made up a new rule: we had to play in our socks. But lads, it got fair serious. Like, but the biggest culprit of it all was Uncle Pat, and he'd be in the middle of it, but he had to win. And years later, when we discovered that it was that competitive streak was in him, it was in him playing golf. He was a sulk, but it was competitive all the way. So, but we had great fun. We had great memories of him coming to our house. We loved when Uncle Pat came, because he was a hero of ours. I mean, we grew up listening to. I think Joe said it about the 70s and the 80s weren't particularly kind, as though Neil will remind us of. But we grew up listening to these wonderful, iconic figures of the 40s and the 50s, and Uncle Pat was our hero. And so our memories of Uncle Pat were fun and games, but hugely competitive, and didn't like to be beaten, I suppose, and that's why he was as successful as he was. But a wonderful uncle, a wonderful brother, a great family man, and I look at, personally, he had a huge effect on me he drove us to what we became, and I'm sure the lad will say the same. He was a selector in '84, and taught me a valuable lesson. He said, you have to lose to win, and I suppose I carried that on. And that's my memories of him anyway. So
thank you, Bob.
Thank you for having me.
We'll come to you last. Moving on in Pat's life, and as Tipperary did regain a bit of success, Richard, how aware was Pat that things were starting to change after '84, the half-breaking hurlers, into '86 first league win, and then the breakthrough in Killarney in '87? Declan, you were microphone there. How aware and how proud was Pat of the end to the famine in '87 and the years after?
Well, Uncle Pat was, he had a great influence on all of us, and we all knew what was expected of us to get involved in the game. And he really loved the game, and he was a great encouragement for us every time that he called to our house. He called more often than Bobby said. He was the most regular visitor to our house, and when he'd call, he would always come out and have a look at your stick. He'd have to roll it around in his hand. He'd have to check the pole at the hurling and give you advice on what you should be doing. He knew, I suppose, deep down that we were always going to eventually break the famine, and we were always going to get through it. This man here beside me put it very well down in Killarney that great day, and I have to say that Uncle Pat was a very special man in our house, and we all looked up to him. I mean, I've some great memories of him coming, and the things he'd say to you, ask you about were you playing Dean Ryan, were you playing Rice Cup, who were you playing against? So he was a very special influence on us, and I look back I was trying to remember some funny stories or things that might have happened, and I can remember one particular day we played Wexford down in Enniscorthy in a game. I was with my father-in-law walking back from the field to the hotel, just walking up along the footpath, and this man walked across the road toward me, an elderly gentleman, and he stopped me and he said, "Are you Pat Stakelum's nephew?" And I said, "I am." And he shook my hand and he said, "I knew you were," he said. I was watching you on the field. He said, "You have the same run as him, the same gait." And I was, "Oh, that's grand, thank you very much." And I had no idea who he was, you see. So that was fine, and he walked off. And Ned Canan, who was my father-in-law, was never short of a word, had his mouth wide open. He just was he didn't know what to say for about 2 or 3 seconds, and then he said to me, he said, "Did you know who that was?" And I said, "No idea." He said, "That was Billy Rackard." Yeah, and imagine to think that a man of his stature, that's what it meant to be Uncle Pat's nephew. He walked up to me and he recognised me and complimented me, and when I was swelling, my chest was and I mean, talk about being Uncle Pat's nephew. There was another great time at Connor's wedding up in Galway. I remember we had just come back from the ceremony, and we were sitting in the lobby waiting for the bell to ring to call for the meal. And who walked in only? John B. Keane. And he came over toward me again, and he said, I was never Ed Ryan, you see. He said, "Are you Pat Stakelum's nephew?" And I said, "I am." He said, "Can I join you?" I said, "You can." So he bought me a pint, the bell rang, and I stayed where I was. I was never going to get this chance again to see such a great man. But again, just to give you an idea how big a man Pat Stakelum was. And I was proud to be his nephew.
Thank you.
I want to say one thing. I see Uncle Jerry laughing there. Just while the two of us are hanging on each other here, there was another story about being Pat Stakelum's nephew. If we hurled well, we were Pat Stakelum's nephew. But if we hurled bad, we were Tim Ryan's son.
Lads, we move on this, I'll be back to Declan in a minute. Lads, I dare say you were all Pat Stakelum's nephews in Killarney in '87. So we've heard up along the whole way. Richard, was Pat in Killarney in '87? Can you remember meeting him there, and what was his reaction to that vital day?
Well, what I remember about Uncle Pat was the evening beforehand. You know, there was a phone call from the house, and the father says, "You better went down to the office." He said, "Your Uncle Pat's on the phone." And I said, "Oh, okay." So I went into the office that day and I got to talk to him, and you know, like, I was nervous enough as it was, but he was fantastic. And he just said, "Look at," he said, "things are going well." He says, "This is the biggest day of your life. It doesn't get any bigger than this." And he said, "Embrace it," he says, "You're bred to do this." That was the words he said, "You're bred to do this." So I thought it was an incredible thing to say. And I did meet him in Killarney, I did, but you know, Pat didn't really kind of, you know, didn't want to take any of the limelight in that, but I made him understand that there was a big hole, and that's all. There's no more than that.
That doesn't surprise us one bit. The man is humble and he was in Gilles days. Moving on again then, from 87, obviously we broke through again, 88 at Munster, 89 at Munster, 90 went wrong in Thurles. We move on to 91, under the leadership of our great club and great friend here beside us, Declan Carr. Conor, a crucial part of that as well. So, Conor, can you give us our memories of 91, back to the Burlington, was Pat there, did you meet, did he go to those sort of functions? How proud was he of 91?
Well, before I answer that question, I just want to say John B. Kane wasn't at my wedding day. No. I don't know if I went either. But that bit right just before we go any further. So, as your Uncle Pat, it wouldn't be style. Certainly looking for the limelight wouldn't be style. There was just, and you always knew that there was a standard. You always knew that what was acceptable and what wasn't acceptable without ever having been told it. And I think it's a little bit like the lads there. There was this aura about Pat Stakelum. What are you to Pat Stakelum would often be asked when you'd be up and down the country. God knows, you could be in any part of the country. And the question was, what are you to the man? So while I certainly don't remember meeting him in the Burlington, maybe Declan does, but there was just that aura about him. And it reminds me of the wonderful story of the night that in 16, when we were lucky enough to win it, and we brought the cup at home, and I got Auntie Bridget and Auntie Lucy and Uncle Jerry and Auntie Nancy. They were all around the table at home, and they talk of Pat and what he'd done. And I asked Auntie Bridget and Auntie Lucy, what was it like when Uncle Pat won the All-Ireland in 49 when he was captain? And the answer was, we didn't find out till Thursday because we were nursing in England. So you talk about the bicycle and you talk about what it was, but the memories and the endurance of it, it didn't matter when they found out. It was just forever and ever and ever. So yeah, a huge legacy and a huge rich legacy of a wonderful standard that you're only trying to embellish and move on. So my memories of Pat Stakelum.
Thank you very much, Conor. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lovely picture in the book. One of the finest pictures in it is of this man here beside me, Declan Carr. Along with Pat, we opened a memorial down there at the gate of Ballycal Hurling Field about 20 years ago to the trustees who secured that field down there from the Land Commission. And they shouldn't be forgotten, and they weren't forgotten. And we unveiled a memorial at the gate down there to them. And it was a brilliant picture taken of this man, Declan, here beside me, Declan Carr, and Pat together. The two Ballycal captains of All-Ireland winning teams, Pat in 49, Declan in 91. And it's a picture that will always hold a great value for our club here, because there's two men of huge substance, and you could see the regard going both ways there in that picture. So, Dec, your memories and your thoughts on Pat Stakelum.
Yeah, thanks very much, Donald. I suppose I'm the only one here not connected by blood, but I certainly have plenty of interactions with Pat. I'd like to say at the outset, I don't know which is worse on stage, a Limerick man or a Lee man, but and I'm nearly opted for the Limerick man at this time. But no, I would say that, you know, there was always lots of people during our career to give advice, and some of the older people and the older hurlers, and you tended to kind of let it go over your head, but any time Pat would offer up any morsel of advice, you would always tend to listen. I did witness a couple of times his competitive edge, and he had a look that he could give you. We used to play a rip in Thurles Golf Club every Thursday going back the years, and I was on with Pat's team a couple of times, and I missed a couple of short putts. And by God, when I looked around, if a look could kill you, he actually buried me on the spot. And it was such, I said, Jesus, I don't ever want to be on the wrong side of this man. But he was a real competitor, very competitive, and hit it well, but would try his living's best to be successful. But again, I would say the abiding memory is the advice, cool, calm. You described it really well, Donald, where he said little and you would listen and you take it on board. So that's great memories.
Thank you, Declan Carey. We'll finish back at the other end again with two questions maybe for Declan Hannon. One he won, the other one he won. Declan, we've heard from Aidan there the regard that there was for Pat in Wexford with the Raptors and all that. We all know from Joe Toohey and all the lads the regard that Pat was had for particularly in Cork. Down Limerick way, how did the Stakelum name hold up? Did it benefit you? How was Pat held out there?
Great. I suppose in Limerick they weren't hugely praised, seeing as they were beating us all the time, like, you know. But no, like as I said earlier on, any time you heard Tipperary GA, the Stakelum name was always mentioned, and the Ryans as well, like, and you know, we looked up to them. I know it's funny when you were saying that when you played well you were a Stakelum and you didn't play well you were elsewhere, like, and Dad blows from Croke or whatever, and that's what they'd say in Limerick as well. If we played well we were Stakelums and Thurles, and if we played poorly we were Limerick and Croke, like, so I don't know, I like to think we're turning the table small in Tipperary in the last few years, but no, just listening to the lads, it's great, like, whatever about being a good hurling person, but you know, as a person, a family man, probably that's what it's all about really, like, and you know, having a person like that to look up to, not just on the field but off the field as well, I think is very important.
Thank you. And now the question you don't want to hear, Declan Hannon. What's the chances of Limerick doing 5 in a row?
I don't know, I've got to Ed Stakelum stag tonight, so it might take a long time. But no, we're having a great time in Limerick the last few years. It's not that long ago we were doing well to win one game at the Mind for All Ireland, so you know, those memories aren't that far away either. So I think we're looking forward to next year again, but it's very competitive. It's a fantastic championship to be a part of it all, so we're looking forward to no doubt more battles with Tipperary next year again.
Thank you, Declan. Ladies and gentlemen, can I introduce our panel one more time? Declan Hannon. Very interesting just to look across the stage here, ladies and gentlemen. You see a common thread between the Stakelums that I just noticed here. And the common thread I see when you see there Richard, when you think of Pat, you know, when you think of Declan, a common thread I see is the ability to strike a long-range point from half-back. You think of Richard Stakelum with the long-range points that inspired us in '87. You think of, you know, Declan Hannon, a master at the long-range point now, and especially on the big occasion. And then, you know, you think of Pat Stakelum, known as a beautiful striker of a 70 as it was then a 65 now, of a long-range free. And just in case you'd forget, Bobby scored a point from 100 yards in the 91 All-Ireland final too. So Bobby, you were at the strike a long-range point as well. So fair play to you. So, ladies and gentlemen, lovely to hear the accounts from the lads of Pat, as they knew him, and as they are certainly carrying on the tradition now. And as you all know, Connor's own Connor is carrying it on into another generation now with Tipperary again, as are all the others around Tipperary. You see Dara Stakelum with Thurles Arces last weekend. So the Stakelum legacy is continuing on and on and on, to our detriment maybe here in Holy Cross, but certainly to the good of Tipperary. So we've seen our guests, and now it's time to change it around another little bit, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for our final speaker of the night. And as you would guess, our final speaker tonight is going to be the author of the book, my own brother-in-law, Noel Dundon. And what can I tell you about Noel Dundon? Well, I'll say this. I thought they chose very well tonight in getting Declan Hannon to launch the book. I think the Stakelum family chose very well, and probably couldn't have chosen a better man to write this book than Noel Dundon. Because, like Pat himself, Noel shares a deep understanding of Tipperary GA from his time with the Tipperary Star. Also, like Pat, he has given great service to both Holy Cross, Ballycahill and Thurles Oak. Although in fairness to Noel, Pat did it the wrong way around. He went Holy Cross to Thurles Oak. Noel Dundon had the good sense to come from Thurles Oak to Holy Cross. Noel, as you know, joined Holy Cross Ballycal Club from Durlaso when he married his sister Breed. And I remember their wedding day very well, just like we remembered, you know, Connor's wedding there now. I remember two things in particular from Noel London's wedding day to my sister Breed. The first one I would say that strikes me, it's a lot of years ago, was the sheer relief on Michael and Mary Dundon's face that they had offloaded him. But the second thing I remember was a song they sang that day. It was at the start of the wedding and it was Amazing Grace. And I thought the lines in it really described Noel's transfer from Durlaso to Holy Cross Ballycal. I once was lost and now I'm found. Was blind but now I see. Anyway, for people who don't know where Noel took residence up in, I can't describe to you, you know, clearly enough where he headed. He headed for the deep, dark designs of Rathcannon Lane. And for anyone who doesn't know about Rathcannon Lane, where Noel took up residence, I'll just describe it to you like this. It's so long and it's so narrow, it's a cul-de-sac, that just after Christmas of 1994, a fella went down with a Massey Ferguson tractor and a long trailer. Just 2 days after Christmas, he got lost, he was looking for spottings. And he reversed out sometime before St. Patrick's Day. And when he did, from reversing the Massey, he had one unmerciful crick in his neck, I tell you that. But that's Rathcannon Lane where Noel took up residence. And he became part of what's known really, affectionately I suppose, as the Rathcannon GAA Mafia. And he became part of that group. And in the book I read a lovely story written by Gerard Stakelum about how Pat Stakelum and his brother John could weigh up a whole team without saying a word. Pat would say, there's the same team in the 80s, Pat would say, Donny O'Connor. John would say, Pat would say, Pat Fox. John would say, Pat would say, Bobby. John would say, That was their way of communicating about players. I can tell you this, anybody that the Rathcannon Mafia got at after they hadn't put it in for Holy Cross Ballycal didn't get away with or they got destroyed. And that was only under 11. So, Noel joined a dangerous gap. But since he came to Holy Cross Ballycal, he has completely immersed himself in the fortunes of our club. Obviously, he follows Peter, Cathy, and Eve, their fortunes with our Camogie club and with our GA club. Breed says he has a great pair of hands, and I suppose that probably refers to the fact that he mends hurdles. Day in, day out, free of charge for Scull Ailby, for Holy Cross Ballycal, and for any other young lad who wants to leave the hurling up in the Rathcannon. He'll just fix it and give it back to him free of charge. That's the spirit of the GA that we all love. So, when the Stakelum family was picking somebody to launch this book, I think they picked well. And I think you'll enjoy listening to him. He has done a great job. Give it up for the author, Noel London.
If the Stakelum family chose well, maybe I should have chosen better too. It's funny, 81 years ago today, the United Nations was formed. The UK and US came together to form that alliance. And it's a little bit like that as well with Durlaso and Holy Cross Ballycal coming together tonight, two superpowers of the GA, coming together for one goal. That goal was to honour Pat Stakelum, our legend. It's not the first time they came together, of course. We were here in this hall a good few years ago as well to replace the medals which had been stolen from Pat and Nancy's home. And that was a very, very special night for the Stakelum family, and particularly for Pat and Nancy. It wasn't so much that the All-Ireland medals were being returned, it was the gesture. The clubs coming together, forming that alliance and coming together to replace those medals. They deeply appreciated that, as does the extended Stakelum family. So Holy Cross Ballycal and Durlaso, they'll fight like hell on the field, the way it should be, but off the field, there's tremendous respect there between the clubs, and I think that's fantastic to see. I have a few messages of congratulations that came in over the last couple of days from people who unfortunately couldn't be here, and one of them in particular called our home, my father's home, a man who would have soldiered with Pat, Sean McLaughlin, the great Sean McLaughlin, asked to extend the congratulations to the Stakelum family on producing this book. He was sorry he couldn't be here. He'd love to be here, but he's not in the best of fettle at the moment. So we remember Sean tonight, and also another man to remember who couldn't be here is Len Gaynor. Len called as well today to send his apologies and to send his congratulations, and Len is under the weather at the minute as well. So two great men who were soldiers with Pat at different stages, and it's great that they took the time out to make contact. The patron of the GA, Archbishop Kieran O'Reilly, also extends his congratulations to the family, and I'm delighted to see the former patron, Archbishop Clifford, is with us tonight as well, so thanks for being with us, Dr. Clifford. I'd like to maybe extend a particular welcome to Pat's former colleagues, the likes of Donny Neal down there, Jimmy Finn, there's a few more around as well, and I probably shouldn't start naming people as we get them, but thank you very much for being here, Jimmy and Donny in particular. Your presence here really enhances tonight, and I'm sure Pat would be thrilled to have had you here. Two great friends and great colleagues of his as well. I'd also like to extend a warm welcome and congratulations to Liam O'Donoghue, who's here. And the reason I congratulate him is that Liam, in the last couple of weeks, was announced as the winner of not one, but 2 McNamee Awards for his books. So congratulations, Liam. It was a great privilege for me to be asked to pen this book, this account of Pat and Nancy's life and times. And when the Stakelum family asked me to do it, I was really honoured to do it. And I suppose it was a big help that I knew both Pat and Nancy well. As Donald mentioned, I knew Pat from Doris Og and from all of the coaching that he would have done, but not so much the coaching, it was the gentle words of encouragement always. No matter how big of a hames you were making of coaching an under 10, Pat would always encourage you. And that was really, really appreciated. And I think up to the time of his passing, he was president of Doris Og, and he always retained a huge interest in the affairs of the club, but also of Holy Cross Ballycahill. He always kept Holy Cross Ballycahill at his heart, and that was something that always came across as well when you spoke to him. I also knew Nancy very well through my involvement with the Thurles Musical Society, and Nancy was usually down there in the pit playing the violin at the various different shows, and when there'd be a bit of comedy going on, you'd see herself and Bridget Kane rolling laughing at what was going on. So great memories of times past. It was lovely to hear Pat speak here, I think. It really added to the occasion. And I want to thank Owen Hassett down there and Ty, his son, for looking after that. It was work beyond my technical expertise, I can tell you. So Owen, thank you very much for that. Brendan O'Connor's work has already been mentioned here, and I want to add to that as well. Brendan has tremendous skill in what he does. He takes so much pride in every page and every word on every page. And Brendan is responsible for what you're seeing there tonight. We put the words together maybe and gather the photographs, but Brendan O'Connor is the man who produces that book. So thank you very much, Brendan, for your help. I also want to thank my own father, Michael, for editing the book and for bringing his red pen back into play again. I got used to that red pen inside the Tipperary Star, and I'm glad to see it hasn't run out of ink since. But it's very reassuring to have somebody looking over your shoulder and proofing stuff like that, and particularly because he knew Pat as well and would have known the era that we were talking about. A special thank you as well to Tom and Anne Gallagher and for their help here in getting the hall ready. Tom was the man who restored Pat's bike, and you may have heard that the community here in Ballycahill are hoping to open an exhibition area up there in the balcony, an exhibition area dedicated to Pat Stakelum. And the bike is going to form the centrepiece of that exhibition. So to Tom and to Anne, and also to Mary Brown and to Tommy Ryan for all their help here, thank you very much. You'll see on the carrier there, maybe it has gone, is it? It has gone. Hannon has it gone already, has he? But it's there in front, is it? And a special thank you to John and Betty Kennedy for getting the replica of the McCarthy Cup for us. It was the best we could do, sure. Limerick won't give us the other one. Wait till next year, though. So thanks to the Kennedys for collecting that cup for us. 13 is a pretty magical figure here tonight, believe it or not, because 13 Holy Cross Ballycahill men won 28 All-Ireland medals between them. And the 8 Douglas O players have won 13 All-Ireland medals between them. And it struck me as the lads are all up here on the stage, and Donal and myself, we have 13 All-Ireland medals between us as well. Donal, how many do? There were 13 All-Ireland medals up here on the stage tonight, and I want to thank the lads for coming up and for sharing their thoughts on Pat. I think it certainly enhanced the night. As Donal said about Pat going in the Thurles direction and I coming in the Holy Cross direction, and it sort of struck me about the similarity as well. You know that one was, a legend of the game, somebody who was highly respected throughout the country, very, very skillful player, very successful player, and then you have Pat Stakelum. I'm afraid that's where the similarities ended, but we were really delighted and thrilled when Declan Hannon agreed to cross the border to launch this book tonight. I think Declan, I don't know where he is, but I think Declan should be aware of how much regard he's held in, and it's not just because of the Stakelum connection. Declan, you're held in the highest of esteem in these parts, and we're delighted to have you here. One request, enjoy the stag and keep enjoying it for a long time to come. Finally, to our MC, to Donal. Donal's had a busy day because together with him, Stakelum and many others, they were involved in coaching the Holy Cross Ballycahill under-19 team to win the county final. So it was a very busy day, and on top of that, this morning we had the Bob Stakelum tournament in Holy Cross for under-11 hurlers, and Robert down there was on hand to present the medals in memory of his father for that event. So it's been a very, very busy day in Holy Cross today, and Donal has been central to all of that. So Donal, thank you very much for all your work in this as well tonight. Finally, I'd just like to thank my own family, the lads down there, Breed and Kathy Neve and Peter over here, who's hiding in the corner, turning on and off lights. Thank you for all the help that you've given tonight as well to get things going. And the last thing I'd like to do maybe is to read a poem which Pat loved, and he would recite this at many, many, many gatherings. And I think it probably